You're listening to If Only I Were Wiser podcast, where Raina Wilson brings together wisdom and raw life stories to provide encouragement and truth. So many times it's easy to become discouraged in your own pursuit of health because your story or circumstances look drastically different from your favorite influencer or even the expectations you had for yourself. If that is you, welcome! This space is for you to learn, breathe, and maybe just listen and see what wellness could look like for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast. On today's episode, I have the clean beauty queen herself, Becca Tetzlaff. Becca is a blogger, wife, and dog mom, and having seen firsthand the benefits of switching to a natural lifestyle herself, she is so passionate about helping women make the switch to cleaner beauty, organic skincare, and low-tox products without the stress of being perfect about it. And that's why I loved this conversation, because we get into the nitty-gritty behind ingredient labels, greenwashing on your favorite clean beauty products at Target, and all the things that we should really watch out for as we discern what's best to use on our skin. So let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome back, Becca, to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast. I say welcome back because this is our second recording.
Well, thank you for having me again. I'm glad the first time around wasn't so bad that you just completely canceled. So this is good.
I'm so excited. So let's just get started with a little bit about you, your family, where are you from, and then we'll kind of dive into how you got to being organically Becca.
All right. Yeah, so I grew up and I currently live in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. I run the blog Organically Becca, which focuses on a lot of different things, but just clean beauty, natural low-tox living, wellness, holistic home, a lot of stuff under that umbrella. My professional background before I was doing all of this was actually in web and digital media development and design. So I kind of have a more techie type of background, which kind of translated into blogging, but a little bit. But yeah, it's just me, my husband, and my dog, and I feel like we're just pretty chill, low-key type of people. I try not to. I don't really love the hustle culture, hustle life, boss babe, all of that. I just like, getting out in nature, going hiking, going on long walks, going to coffee shops, doing bar workouts, going to the farmer's market, stuff like that. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Love that. And I've told you before, I love your design and everything behind your platform. So when I found out that you were a graphic designer, it was like, oh, yes, makes sense.
Yeah, I know people are like, do you do your own graphics? Who do you go to for your website? I'm like, well, I design everything myself, and then my husband is my web developer. So it all works out.
Yeah, perfect. So what was that like transitioning from, I wouldn't even say corporate world, so maybe corporate world to what you do now through your blog and through social media, through clean beauty?
I never expected this to be what I'm doing, obviously. I didn't even know you could really make money from a blog or have that be a job. So what I was doing was basically I started my blog on the side just as a little hobby. I had no intention of making it a business or making it serious or anything, but I was doing that on the side while working my corporate job. And then I guess just to back up, the whole reason I really got into wellness and clean beauty and all of that was kind of on accident, because I was not raised holistically. I was raised very conventionally. I was not into organic or anything like that. But I think a lot of people kind of fall into this similarly because they experience a health issue or a health scare. And that's what happened to me. So I just on and off have dealt with acne, inflammation, skin issues, gut issues, hormone issues. And basically, I was kind of sick of quick fixes, go to the dermatologist, get a cream, but it's not actually helping the cause of your acne and why this stuff is happening. So
Right.
I just basically took things into my own hands and was learning about how to heal from within, how to eat foods for like to support your skin, to support your gut, how much that's all tied together, which we're not taught about at all. It's so disconnected, like, skin is external and everything else is separate from that. But I kind of, I was like into eating organic foods and wellness and all that, but then I was kind of like, I'm missing a big piece of the puzzle here, and that is like just the burden all of our skincare products and makeup and stuff we're using around our homes is like really contributing to just my health issues and not helping at all. So I'm like, why am I caring about the food I'm eating, but not what I'm putting on my face? So yeah, long story short, I just was noticing so many positive changes myself, and I was already talking about it with my friends and family and coworkers that I'm like, I kind of want to just start a little blog about this. So that's what I did,
Yeah.
and that was back in 2016, so a long time ago. But again, like I said, it was just very like, I think I had like 10 email subscribers, and most of them were like my mom and my grandma. So it just started very small and grew from there.
Yeah, which people don't understand. I had this conversation with a friend the other day about people don't see all the behind the scenes of creating content and everything that goes into that, the time, the blood, sweat, and tears, and just like the progression. Because I think people from the outside, and especially like I've fallen into this trap of looking at people on social media and being like, wow, like look at how many followers they have, look at how established they are, all their stuff is like so solid and I'm this weedy. When people don't realize it's like culmination of years and years of work and
Yes,
then years and years of research and like lived experiences.
I know. And the comparison trap is so hard to not fall into, and just like, you really do have to try to just focus on your own little journey, but it's so hard when you're just constantly bombarded by like, oh, well, this person started after me and they're already like got this many
Yep.
followers. And it's like, it's just so difficult to constantly see that.
Oh yeah. And it's just like a chase, like you mentioned at the beginning, like I'm not subscribing to that boss babe hustle culture. Like
I
give
know.
me slow snail living and
Yes. Yeah, I know.
feed
I've
me.
I've been seeing memes about that too. Like, I don't want to be a boss babe. I want to be like oh, I don't want to be a girl boss. I want to be a girl hobbit. And I was like,
Oh,
that sounds like
yes.
me. Yeah, it's just, I get it. Like trying to want to be a very, aspiring and a hard
hmm
worker and feel very accomplished. But I also think like so many people burn themselves out trying to do that. And like, what's the
Yeah.
point in the long run if you're just, you know, burning the candle or whatever
Yeah.
that phrase is?
Yeah, for sure. Burning at both ends. And I've done
Yes.
that, like I've lived on both ends of the spectrum, which like I'm thankful that I have like women in my life now and a community that can remind me of like, hey, like what are you chasing? Because you're chasing something that like doesn't really exist.
Uh-huh.
So you can reset and rest.
So many times too, we just kind of do things because we feel like we should do them, or that's what everyone else is doing. And it's like, is that actually what's good for what I'm trying to accomplish?
Yeah. And I like saw it the other day too. Like goals are okay to have and you should have goals, but when it comes to like driving your whole life and it drives you to this place of, like you said, you're pursuing something that you don't even align with, then it's not even worth it.
Yeah. No, totally agree with that.
So, in terms of skincare, I definitely started my skincare journey with like the Strident, like pads, and that St. Ives, I think, the apricot scrub.
Yes. Oh, everyone
So,
did that. That's like a rite of passage for people.
yes, what was it like for you? Or what were the first kind of steps you're like, this isn't working? And then you kind of were able to start researching and learning about clean beauty and organic and holistic living.
Yeah, so I definitely like fell into the trap of greenwashing where there were things I thought were more natural or better for me and really weren't. So we can talk about greenwashing later, but that's pretty inevitable for most people where they're like, I want to do better. but then they get tricked by like marketing and they're doing things that aren't actually much better. But I think the main thing for me was just like trying to figure out how to heal acne. So I used to use Proactive, and like I said, the creams from the dermatologist and like all the harsh things. I was putting all this like harsh stuff on my skin, which probably made it 10 times worse. I think the biggest thing I first kind of was like, oh my gosh, was Manuka honey, which is like it's like a more potent form of honey. So it just has a lot of antibacterial and really good properties for acne and healing skin, and it can even help with like scarring. And that like totally transformed my skin. I was doing like masks with it like
Okay.
a couple times a week, and that was just like, oh my gosh, like the more natural and gentle and safer things, it might not be a harsh scrub on my face, but it's like working and it makes my skin feel really, really good. So that was kind of like just a big eye-opening moment for me. Um, in terms of like other products and everything, I feel like I just kind of like dabbled with random. There weren't many clean beauty brands like back when I was doing this. This was almost 9-10 years ago, so there was a very limited selection, which nowadays there's like too many things to choose from.
Right.
Um, so I think maybe I found like a lip gloss and I don't know, maybe a mascara, which again back then they did not have good mascaras. So it was a very slow progression of just like trying things here and there, but still very much like not 100% doing all the best things.
Sure.
So it's just a very slow learning experience, which kind of ties into what we were saying, how people see this end goal of like, oh my gosh, you're using all organic products, you're using everything clean, like you're doing things so perfectly. And it's like, well, this took me like years to find this place.
Right.
So don't feel like you need to like jump into that as well.
Yeah. Like you didn't see me on the nights that I was like pounding Accutane and birth
Yeah.
control.
Oh my
And
gosh,
then
yes.
and then like you said, it's so funny. I fell to the other side of the spectrum and was looking up natural remedies for acne because I definitely struggled with acne growing up. Come to find out when I went to my OBGYN that was doing my Accutane and stuff. I did a full round of Accutane. Never would recommend. It was horrible. My skin glowed for 2 months after that. I was like, I'm clear. And then it all came back. And she was like, just kidding. Your hormones are out of whack. But that's just the way you are. So welcome to the rest of your life.
Wow.
So that
That's
being
so
said,
disheartening.
I like went to Pinterest and looked up like banana, egg yolk,
Yeah.
whatever
Well, there's a lot of weird
masks.
stuff on Pinterest.
Right? So I'm glad to hear Manuka honey. Okay.
Yeah,
That's a good place to start.
that's like my holy grail. Like if I could only use one face mask for the rest of my life, it would be that, because it's just like I
Okay.
feel like anyone can benefit from it. Like if you have dry skin or, just trying to have a general glow. Like it's so good. So love it.
So let's dive into greenwashing because like you said, everybody can fall for it. I've been guilty of it. What is it and how can we be conscious consumers?
Yeah, so like greenwashing is just the literal worst thing because basically what it is, it's like when brands are marketing their products and make it seem like what they're doing is clean, green, eco-friendly, natural, non-toxic, all of that, but then like in reality, it's not. So it's just super, super misleading, and I just feel like it preys on people who are trying to do better. Um, and one thing to know is there's no regulation for terms like natural or clean or non-toxic. Like anyone can use that on their products and no one's going to like check or be like, "Hey, you're not actually non-toxic." So you can't say that. Like it's literally the Wild West. So you might see, like, I always say to people, like, be a little skeptical when you see these buzzwords like green, botanical, plant-based, like if they have pretty green or brown packaging that looks really eco-friendly, like
Right.
that all looks great from the outside, but like ultimately you have to read the ingredient labels of a product to actually know if a product is clean or green or non-toxic or whatever. So it's just super, super confusing because like everyone falls for it. Like if you don't know ingredients, then of course you're just going to kind of trust what the front of a label says. So especially as clean beauty is becoming just like way more mainstream, all these brands are kind of like, ooh, I want to be clean too, or I want to appeal to this audience of people who want clean ingredients. So like there's brands like CoverGirl who have like a clean line, and it's like it's not actually clean. Or even
Right.
like if you go to stores like Sephora or Target, they have clean sections, and that's just like so wishy-washy because there are truly clean brands in there, but most of them are not actually clean. So it's just like people, like I said, people want to do better, but they're just getting so duped by marketing.
Yep. And I think I realized that when I saw, wait a minute, like the transition, like you said, in some of these brands, like CoverGirl was moving towards, or Aveeno, I think was one of the first ones I
Yes.
saw, was like their natural face wash. And it was like a foaming cleanser, and it had the leaves, and it moved to the minimalist, like cute, like trendy packaging. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm
I
doing
know.
so much better for my skin. And then come to find out, reading through ingredient labels and checking the actual ingredients for what they were, I'm like, oh, this is trash. All over
Yeah.
my face again.
Aveeno's like, whenever I talk about greenwashing, Aveeno's like the biggest example I give because I think
Really?
that's just like one of the biggest greenwashers out there. Like, oh, we're made with like oats or whatever their hero ingredient is. And it's just like, uh, you can't expect this like giant, I don't even know who owns Aveeno at this point, but like, do you really expect this giant company to like really have clean, natural, organic ingredients? It's just no.
Yeah. So how do we prepare ourselves or equip ourselves as consumers? Is that learning like all of these buzzwords? Is it learning like fragrance and perfume can be, combinations of toxins? Like what would it be maybe as a first step to start sifting through the greenwashing and actually find products that might be good for us?
Yeah, so again, like I said, just be skeptical when you see this marketing on products. You can also start asking questions like, can you actually find the full ingredient list when you go to a company's website? Some brands don't even show it. They'll say like key ingredients, and it'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
3 things that sound natural. So you're like, oh, the product's natural. But if you can't actually find the ingredient list, that's a huge red flag. So reach out
Mm,
and ask the brand. Are they willing to answer questions? Are they transparent? Do they talk about where they source their ingredients? Like, just things like that. Can you get a general feel from the company, like if this seems
right.
legit or not? Um, Unfortunately, it falls on us as consumers to be very proactive and kind of figure this stuff out for ourselves. It is what it is. But yeah, like I said, the best thing you can do is just start to get familiar with, like, first thing you do, just look at the ingredient list. People kind of used to say like, are there things there you can pronounce and recognize, which is like kind of true,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also like, sometimes brands will list like the scientific name of something that really is natural, but it sounds kind of scary.
Right.
So I know there's like no real easy answer, unfortunately, but you just have to start like learning ingredients and trying to get familiar with them. But like you were kind of saying, there are just like a couple big things to always look out for on ingredient labels, and that's synthetic fragrance is a huge one, like you said. So, um, the term fragrance can be like literally a combination of over 3,000 chemicals, and brands don't have to disclose what's in there. A lot of the times they can keep it proprietary. So, um, that the fragrance alone is, they usually use something called phthalates, and that kind of helps extend the scent of the fragrance. So when you put a perfume on and it smells super strong hours later, that's because of phthalates.
Mm,
Those are also known as plasticizers. So um, it's just a lot of these ingredients are tied to like hormone disruption, endocrine disruption. They can kind of linger in the body. It can be acute things like headaches or allergic reactions. Um, but it can also be just more like long-term stuff. When you use this stuff over and over and over again, just the exposure, it really does add up. And, these things can be carcinogenic. They can be linked to cancer. I know no one likes hearing that, but it's just, again, the lack of regulation with these ingredients. So there are, just to go back to like what can consumers do, there are like apps you can use that you can like scan your products and it'll kind of help you find ingredients or like kind of point out what ingredients are bad or give you ratings for your products. I don't always like recommending those because they can be super helpful like when you're first starting out and if you literally have no idea about ingredients to avoid. The problem with some of those apps, I think like there's Think Dirty, there's one by EWG, there's a bunch of them, but the data's not always super accurate. And another issue is I think some of these brands start to take like donations and things get a little murky where, this brand will pay to have a better rating in the app. So definitely you can use those to start, but I think long-term don't rely on those and don't trust them 100% to be like, oh, this product's clean, this product's not. There is one that I found more recently that's, I think, probably a better one to start with. It's called Switch Natural. A woman named Andrea owns it, and it's just, like, very small. She doesn't have, like, outside funding or corporate interest or anything weird like that. It's very unbiased. So I think that would be a good one to start with. And then just to shameless plug, I do have, like, a little ingredient glossary people can download on my website, and that has like 48 most common, most basic ingredients that I recommend avoiding. So yeah, like I said, it's not an easy answer of quickly knowing if something's clean or not. You definitely just have to start learning.
No, I'm so thankful that you mentioned that because I was actually going to ask. I started out with, I think it was the EWG's Skin Deep. And then I had a friend that used Think Dirty because this was maybe 5 years ago when I started this journey. And we were just, sifting through products because we were, going through everything. And then she sent me, I think, a blog or an article that had come up that some companies, I won't name them, were using donations or, financial funding to improve their standing with Think Dirty. And I was just like,
Yeah. I think when it first started, it was a lot better, but it's just gotten so big to where it's like now, like, can I really trust it? Or I've even seen, like, I think there's like little widgets brands can use now where when you look at their ingredient lists, it already automatically pulls in like the EWG rating of the ingredients.
Wow.
And I've seen stuff on there, like, that's cool and super helpful, but I've seen stuff on there, it will like list an ingredient and it'll be like 1, green, safe. But it's an ingredient I'm like, I know that is not a 1. Like, one called phenoxyethanol, for example. Like, so I'm just like, I've seen too many red flags with it where I'm like, I can't really recommend it. Like,
right.
Just knowing, like, I also don't want to confuse people too much where it's like, yeah, just use this and you can scan your products and they'll be fine when you might not actually be using something that's fine.
And I think people start out by hearing this conversation, or at least I did, thinking, it's just my blush. It's just my shampoo. It's just my deodorant. Not realizing, if people talk about the toxic, your toxic load is like the toxic bucket theory. Over time, like, I'm 25. I've been using deodorant for how many years? Every day.
Yeah.
Like, those things add up. Your toothpaste adds up. Your skincare adds up. Your shampoo, I did go through the whole Victoria's Secret bombshell.
Oh, yeah.
Perfume stage,
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely that myth of, like, the dose makes the poison. Everything's a chemical. I even know just, like, my parents. Like, my mom will say, like, I've made it this far in my life, I'm fine, I don't need to start using like cleaner products. And I'm like,
right,
it's just so sad to hear because you want to help, but you also don't want to push people too much. But yeah, there was actually like a 2020 study that came out and it kind of debunked that whole the dose makes the poison myth. And it basically said that like endocrine disrupting chemicals, like they act on the body in very, very low doses, but they act in ways that like aren't super predictable, like in terms of conventional toxicology. So like basically what that means is, yes, these little exposures here and there do add up. And it's really about looking at the big picture of where can you reduce your like toxic burden on your body when possible. Like you're never going to be able to avoid every single thing out there. And yes, if you use a lipstick, like it's not going to kill you, but it's just like, where can you do better? What little things can you do here and there?
So in terms of starting out, what place or product or like category of products would you recommend being like, this would probably be the best place to start out? For me and our family, that was deodorant. And that was our first big swap.
Yeah, I definitely think deodorant's like the number one thing, just because we use it every day. Some people do it multiple times a day. And the big thing with deodorant is it has aluminum. So aluminum acts as an antiperspirant. So that will literally stop your sweat. And I know that sounds like a good thing, but like we need to sweat. That's how we eliminate things from our bodies. So completely like blocking that is not good. And then a lot of the like aluminum based deodorants, like, you know, they also have other ingredients in them that aren't great for you. So I think aluminum's actually been found in like breast tissue, and it can kind of go into your lymph nodes. So that's just like a huge, huge one I recommend switching to. Natural deodorant, like it will help with sweat, but it won't block it completely. So I think that's what holds a lot of people up, is they're like, well, I don't want to sweat at all. And it's like, well, pick your battles.
Right.
So that's a number one. And then I think what you should switch out is really so personal, and it depends on what you use in your day-to-day life. So I just like to tell people, like, think of things you use most often, or things that like cover largest areas of your body and that you have the most exposures to. So again, if you use lipstick twice a year, don't worry about switching to a clean lipstick.
Yeah.
But if you use it all the time, then it's definitely important, because you are like partially ingesting that. Another big one, which we also talked about, was perfume. So anything with the big synthetic fragrances, anything that's super smelly, even around your house. So candles, air fresheners, Glade plugins, all the scented like potpourri, stuff like that. That's huge. And then maybe a common thing for most people would be like, you know, shampoo, body wash, body lotion, just like the full body stuff. I think those are big ones.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things I was thinking about was we have to do this, like you said, in pieces, in steps. And financially, a lot of people, the majority of people, can't overhaul their entire life. You know, so for our family, when we started, we had just gotten married. It was a very slow process. So we swapped our deodorant, and then we went through our whole, whatever it was, Dove body wash. And the next month, like, bought Olivia, you know? So it's been this process of being intentional as things run out. But I also don't wear makeup every day. So we put our finances that month towards cleaning out toothpaste, body wash, and shampoo instead of buying clean makeup at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like definitely the way to go, because so many people get scared where they're like, oh my gosh, everything I'm using is horrible. I need to throw it all out and start new. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Because again, you're just going to waste your money because you already invested in those products. So just use them up. Once they're used up, switch to something cleaner. And then again, like you are doing, like prioritizing what's most important to you. And you also just have to realize you're not going to be able to do everything, especially right away. And then I just always remind people, it literally took me years to get to a good place where I felt like, okay, what I'm doing around my house and the products I'm using, I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm still not perfect, but I'm okay with that. There's really random thing, like I still have some old non-stick cookware because it's a muffin pan I use twice a year. Like, you don't have to do everything, and you don't have to feel guilty if you aren't at this like perfect place. So doing what you can when you can.
One of the things that I've heard or comments that I've heard around the like holistic beauty, holistic skincare in particular is clean beauty doesn't perform as well as the commercial products. So what would you kind of say to that?
I would say there is some truth to it, because when you're not using, I'll just do mascara, for example. People are like, can you recommend a clean waterproof mascara to me? I'm like, that doesn't exist.
Okay.
Because in order to waterproof, you need like waterproofing ingredients. So sometimes those literally include like PFAS, like the stuff in your nonstick cookware in your mascara.
Nice.
So like I don't want to lie and be like, oh, you can switch to clean beauty, no problem. Everything's going to work exactly the same. Clean beauty has come a super long way to the point where things do work awesome. Back 10 years ago when I was starting, there was a lot of not awesome stuff.
Yeah.
But there are compromises here and there, like deodorant. It won't completely stop you from sweating. Mascara, there is no truly waterproof. There is water resistant, but not truly waterproof clean mascara. Like nonstick cookware, when you don't use Teflon on your cookware, stuff might stick a little easier. There are learning curves, but it's just like there's little things here and there where like I'd say there's adjustments, but it's not always going to be the case where things do work magically like a conventional product would that uses who knows what in its ingredients. So give and take.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're gonna, we made the swap to cast iron, and then I was like, great, I have to treat this like a small child because there's a whole process in taking care of this now.
Yeah, there's just learning curves, and I mean, if you aren't totally willing to give something up, that's okay. Like, find something else you're more comfortable with using that's cleaner. But yeah, it's different. There's going to be things you have to adjust to.
For sure. I'm curious what your process is when you work with a brand. Like, a brand approaches you and they're like, hey, we have a clean product. And you're already like, okay, I know what this means. What is your vetting process for you personally as you work with brands or you try new things and you're kind of working through this process on your own?
Yeah. I mean, I get so many emails from brands that are like I said, there's just like a million clean brands out there nowadays, or clean, air quotes.
Right.
So I get emails all the time, and it's just become a very, very saturated market where like there used to be like 10 clean beauty brands, and now there's hundreds and hundreds. I say no to a lot of stuff, mostly because a lot of the brands that do approach me aren't actually fully clean. I'm very picky about who I like, what products I decide to try and what I decide to recommend to people.
Yeah.
I'm not like a purist, but I'm definitely have very, very high standards, just because there's so many like truly clean brands to choose from that I feel like I can be picky and say no to a lot of the ones that are like, kind of clean.
Okay. Right.
So yeah, the first thing I always do is just go and look at the ingredients on all of their products and decide if they actually are clean or not, if it like stacks up to what they're claiming. And then I just kind of look at, I mean, it might sound superficial, but like something like really cute branding actually does matter to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to use something that has like a weird little label on it. Like, so branding matters to me personally, but at the end of the day, ingredients are always the number one thing. I really try to prioritize like a small business if possible. If it's like, so many cleaner brands have also gotten like bought out by bigger companies, which is not always a bad thing, but
right.
If it's a smaller business that I can support, that's always a huge bonus for me. And yeah, I don't know, if they just seem like they're an honest, good company that has really good intentions, like that's always big for me.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've mentioned this on your blog before, but I'm curious about where you kind of stand on, you hit the nail on the head. Some of these small companies, or at least they were small to me, now that have grown, for example, like Beauty Counter is like a bigger name in this conversation. And then Crunchy, like these
Crunchy.
are bigger companies that have come about. What are kind of your thoughts on
Are
sifting
you
through their
talking
products?
like the multi-level companies in general, or do you just mean like bigger?
I would say bigger companies. So like I've heard great
Okay.
things about Crunchy.
Yeah.
I know there are people that are like ride or die beauty counters. I've
Yeah.
seen a handful of their stuff, and I think it definitely depends on their
Yeah.
individual products from companies that may be cleaner than others.
Yeah.
So kind of how do you approach these large beauty companies that are
Yes.
developing with an
Um,
individualized, process?
so I feel like my stance has kind of changed on that over the years because I used to be like, oh, this company got bought out, not using them.
Okay.
But then I realized like ultimately, okay, have their ingredients changed when they get bought out or become super big? So an example would be like a brand called Well People. They are kind of an original clean beauty brand. They've been around for a couple of years. They got bought out by Elf,
Oh,
which is a
wow.
pretty big beauty
Yeah.
company. And in the past, I would have been like, nah, not using them anymore. But their ingredients are still good. So that's, at the end of the day, that's my like check mark. Um, but what I've also realized is like, maybe I can be super picky about what I bring into my home, but there are people who just want to go to Target and pick up an affordable eyeshadow, for example. Well, people's clean, affordable, you can find them at Target. So why would I tell someone to not use that,
Right.
if it's better than every other brand at Target? So I've kind of become a little more lenient on like who owns this company and whatever, if they're still clean at the end of the day. Companies like Crunchy and Beauty Counter, they're still clean. I think they've definitely gotten huge. I know Beauty Counter uses like some ingredients like phenoxyethanol, where it's like they also use more safe synthetics,
Right.
which is a whole nother conversation. Like, again, I'm not where like, oh, I need to use something that's 100% natural, only has natural ingredients. I think clean beauty really is a mix of natural organic stuff and, safer synthetics that like it's synthetic, but it's still okay for you to use.
Okay.
Um, Safer synthetics can make a product cheaper for us to buy. Sometimes the synthetic option is better actually like than the actual one. So an example of that would be um, like mica.
Mm-hmm.
Mica's used in like eyeshadows and blushes to kind of give like pigment and shimmer. Um, the ingredient itself is safe, but when you look at how it's like sourced, there are a lot of concerns with like child labor in the industry. So some brands use like a synthetic form of mica. So that's just an example of how not everything's always black and white when it comes to ingredients and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing makes things more complicated. But yeah, I've definitely, like I said, I've changed over the years about just how strict I am with brands I use. If I can support a brand that's small, super clean, super organic, obviously I'm going to prefer that, but I'm not going to limit myself to not using these bigger brands if they truly are clean.
Right. And one of the things I wish I had known or realized early on was just because it's clean doesn't mean that it's going to work for me.
Yes,
Because
100%.
I swapped over to skincare that was clean, natural, all the plant things. And then I went to go see my one of my close friends that's an esthetician, and she's seen my face over the past 3 years. And she was like, Raina, what are you using? Because this is wrecking your skin. I'm like, what do you mean? This is like all clean, all organic, like all of the people that I follow on Instagram use it. What do you mean? And
Yeah.
she was like, no, Raina, this is like for your skin and your body. This is not good for you. So I transitioned to, some lab-based clean products.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you pointed that out because it's so true. And like, and another example would be like essential oils. You might be like, oh, they're natural and like they're organic. It's totally fine for me. But like, I've actually had to really scale back on essential oils on my face just because they can be really like desensitizing and they can actually be irritating for people. So like, yeah, just because something's natural or comes from a plant doesn't mean it's like actually okay for you to use all the time. And like, I've definitely seen some brands where they use like their formula list is like this long, and it's like all these plant extracts and essential oils and like potent, like you can still get really potent stuff from plants. So it's like maybe be a little more minimal, but still plant-based. Like it's, you kind of have to learn to navigate all that stuff, because it's like, yeah, just because it's natural doesn't mean your skin's going to be glowing immediately from it.
And that's the other thing to this conversation, and you touched on it at the beginning, is that this, not only is it a process to phase out these products in your lifestyle, but it's a process to heal your skin. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to take so long, and people don't want to hear that because we're a convenience-focused culture, that, great, the makeup that I partner with, I love them. I have to use it for a while, you know,
Yes.
to really see if it fits for my skin. Like, it's not going to be an overnight process that I fall in love with these products. And some it is, you know, like my Ilia mascara, loved. Did I use the, gosh, what was it? CoverGirl, the like blue bombshell mascara
Yes.
for the longest time? Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
But I think a lot of, at least through social media, a lot of women can see people that have the clean lifestyle, their face is glowing, all the happy butterfly things, and not realizing how long it's actually taken their physical health to get there and reflect that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And like, you know, I see all the time on social media where it's like this person with, I was going on a rant about this on my Instagram recently, but it's just like a beautiful model with perfect skin. And, you know, she's demonstrating this makeup or this skincare brand. And then so people are like, oh, if I use this product, my skin will look like that too. And it's like, and people will come to me and be like, oh, what product can I use for acne? And it's like, well, I can recommend things that will help topically with acne. But at the end of the day, that's all coming from within.
Right.
So, and we all have different genetics, you know, like different lifestyle factors. Like, it's not just this, like you said, quick fix Band-Aid solution all the time, where if you just do this one thing, everything else will be fixed. It's like, it's truly so holistic, where it all comes together, and just, it's not always just, you know, use this cleanser and you're good to go.
You're gonna wake up glowing the next morning. You might wake up with an allergic reaction.
Yeah, you know, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. Well, Becca, thank you so much for this conversation. I've loved having it twice. It was so good.
Even better the second time.
For sure. So where can our community connect with you? You mentioned that you have that product ingredient guide. What other ways can we support you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at organicallybecca. But the main kind of hub of where I do everything is my website, so organicallybecca.com. I also have a weekly email newsletter I send out. And then in terms of just like resources and stuff, I literally have hundreds of blog posts. So if you just go on my blog and search for something, I'm sure something will pop up.
Yeah.
But I do have 2 ebooks. So one is like a clean beauty 101 guide, and that's kind of like the full comprehensive, definitely place I would recommend you start if you're a beginner. So how to switch to clean beauty, why it matters, how to read ingredient labels. It has like a glossary of 48 ingredients to avoid, and then I kind of help prioritize like which is most important to avoid, which is not so important to avoid. Still important, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And then I just have like a little subset of that. So if you just want the little ingredient glossary, you can get that separately. And then if for people who like really need one-on-one help, like say they want to do a total overhaul of all their products, I do consultations. So I can literally, you can tell me what you're using, what you like, what you don't like about it. And then I'll kind of provide like just custom recommendations based on your budget, your preferences, your skin type, all of that. So there's definitely a lot of ways I can kind of help people get started when they're more interested in using cleaner products.
Yeah, I love that. I wish I had known, 5 years ago. But
yeah,
I'm super thankful for your platform. I love everything that you share, and you're just an amazing resource. So for our final question that we can close with all of our guests, it is, if you could provide any wisdom to your younger self or for our community that is listening, what would you share?
So I think we kind of touched on it, but I think just finding balance is like what I come back to at the end of the day. Like, you don't have to be 100% perfect, 100% non-toxic to still make a difference for your body. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I always preach that. And really just knowing that like the stress of trying to be perfect alone, that is toxic. So you have to find your happy place, your balance. It's going to look different compared to everyone else. So don't look at what everyone else is doing. Look at what you need to do in your home with your products, with your budget, and what matters to you the most. So really just take baby steps, 80-20. Like, I can't say it enough, but it's so true. Like, some people just get so consumed with trying to avoid every single thing out there that like, why do you want to live like that? Why do you want to stress yourself out? Why do you want to just be like totally on edge all the time? So there's no need for guilt or shame. Just do what works best for you.
Yes, I love that. And I have one more question, which we don't typically do, but I'm so curious. What is your desert island item? Like, I know, through all of the categories of things, if you could only use this item, what would it be?
Well, I feel like we touched on it earlier, but maybe Manuka honey would have to be it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
you can take it internally. It's helpful for like, if you're sick or if you just need a little wellness boost. I even sometimes use it like if I have really, really dry lips, I'll put it on as like a lip mask. Again, I use it on my face. You could probably use it in your hair somehow, like as a hair mask. There's just so many ways you can use it. So that would probably have to be my answer.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Becca. I've loved having this conversation, and I'm so thankful for your platform.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. And we will catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening, friend. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you don't want to miss any wisdom or encouragement, be sure to subscribe to the show. And don't forget to rate and review. Your feedback means so much and helps our community grow. If you're looking for more wellness wisdom and free resources, head over to livingwiselywell.com or get connected with me on Instagram at wiselywell. And if you're looking for a break from the hurried health lifestyle, check out my Return to Rest resource for tangible ways to slow down and finally find rest.